Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Alice and this channel is called Alice's Life. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you the 5 books that I read during May 2021. So the first book that I read this month was called Beach Read and it was written by someone called Emily Henry and published in 2020. I really like this book because it was an easy read, light-hearted, and it has had about 10,000 reviews on Amazon, so it is very popular. However, it was a bit predictable. I did like the characters, but it was just very predictable. There were some bits that were funny, and I did laugh out loud a little bit at some of the things they were saying, because there was a banter going between the man and the woman, who were the main 2 characters, as they began to fall in love. So they were living next to each other in beach houses and they could communicate through the windows by lifting up pieces of paper with notes on that they'd written to each other. So that was a bit funny. But in general it was a bit generic, but for that genre it was good and I'd rate it 3.5 stars. The next book that I read I've actually got here, so I bought it at a charity shop for £1 and it's called 9 Perfect Strangers. It was published in 2019. I had been seeing it in airports a lot in 2019, and I had been considering purchasing it at the full price, but I'm pleased I did not, because it was just weird. I read the Big Little Lies book, I think early this year or last year, and that was a bit better, but this book was just weird, and it was a bit silly. They went to like a health resort and what happened was just a bit bizarre. Yeah, so there wasn't a lot going on and then the ending was just weird and it wasn't a believable storyline really, and the characters were a bit interesting but the story wasn't believable. Yeah, so I rated that 3 stars. The next book that I read this month was called The Language of Kindness by Christine Watson and she published it in 2019. I rated this 4.5 stars. I really liked it. It was nowhere near as good as Adam Kay, who writes on the front, "It made me cry, it made me think, it made me laugh," because I loved his book, This Is Going to Hurt. And I probably will read this one again once more before I give it to someone else. There was just a lot of theory and history of nursing, so it was like she'd swallowed the nurse's textbook and had to prove to her readers that she knew what she was doing, which didn't really fit in well. It could have been edited out a bit more because it kind of disrupted the story and the flow of things. But I do quite enjoy reading these sorts of books, like about psychiatry or about nursing or about what it's like as a doctor for some reason, although it always puts me off ever wanting to go into that profession. So in general, I would say there was just too much technical detail and history facts, but I did enjoy reading it and I did read it quite quickly over a couple of days. The next book that I read was by a famous author called Neil Gaiman, and it was the first book that I'd read of his, and it's called The Ocean at the End of the Lane. It was about a 7-year-old boy who meets an 11-year-old girl, and it's a kind of fantasy book. I rated this 2 stars. Fantasy isn't really my thing, but I had heard good things about this book. I found it a bit difficult to get into or really understand what was going on because it was just a bit weird. It was a good use of language, I just wanted to finish it, but I don't really enjoy reading it, so that's why I rated it 2 stars. The 5th book that I read this month was called Milk Fed, and I think it was only published a couple of months ago. I rated it 3.5 stars. I'd been really excited to read it and wanted to read it, but didn't want to purchase it for £17. But I managed to get it from the library. It was really interesting because it's all about like anorexia and family relationships and falling in love and food. So the first couple of chapters were all showing the ritualizations around anorexia, and I could relate a lot to how she was thinking about eating and how she was thinking about food. But then it just kind of got a bit weird because I didn't realise it was about lesbian sex and oral sex, which was weird and it didn't turn me on, which is good. So basically she goes to a frozen yogurt place and then she meets someone there, and then she begins kind of binge eating a bit, and there's like a whole backstory of Jewish culture. I did get quite sucked into the story and I read it quite quickly. So that's it. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button. Bye.